Welcome back to another episode of Motogp Mac, and today we're going to talk about the Ducati Cup. Now, I'm not sure that I always agree with people when they start going on about Ducati. Oh, they're trying to sew up the championship because they're running 8 bikes. And there's a few things around this that I think people need to understand before they point a finger at Ducati at trying to sew up the championship in that way. So first of all, let's look at how a satellite and factory team normally run. So a satellite and a factory team normally run with 4 bikes, 2 factory, 2 satellite. Satellite could either be 1 year behind, but more so in the past few years, what it's actually been is that they start the year on the same level, same spec of bike, and then the factory team will develop that little bit faster, and then the parts will be passed down to the satellite team. So with Pramac and the main factory Ducati team, that is 4 bikes of the 8 gone. Then we have 2 other teams, and here is the important bit for me. Honda refused to supply more bikes. Yamaha refused to supply more bikes. Suzuki didn't have a satellite program, and neither did Aprilia at the time when these deals were made for the bikes. So that only left KTM and Ducati to supply the 2 teams with bikes. Ducati took up the option and they supplied those 2 teams 1 GP22 and 3 GP21s. If Ducati or KTM didn't take up those options to supply bikes, realistically we'd have 2 less teams and 4 less riders on the grid. And that's the whole point of here as well that I'm trying to make, is that while people complain that it is a Ducati Cup, if Ducati didn't supply the bikes, then we wouldn't have the Beast battling for 3rd place in the championship, which he has a good following, and also Bezzecchi wouldn't have had the opportunity, who is probably one of the most exciting riders up and coming, wouldn't have had the opportunity to win the Rookies Championship this year. Is it Ducati's fault that the bike, the 21 and the 22, is a rideable bike? No, that's kudos to them. They have made good bikes. If you look at what has happened with the GP21, for Bezzecchi and Gigi Antonio, they've got very minimal updates. They've just got parts that the factory team or the Pramac team don't want to use anymore. And I know, for example, Bezzecchi was trying a new swing arm, but they don't have the full aero updates that Bastianini has on his 21. So realistically, when you look at what Ducati have done, they're funding their project by giving older bikes to other teams, which makes sense. They've run 1 extra factory bike from what they would normally run. But their main problem was that towards the start of the season, they changed the engine spec that they were going to use for the factory riders. And this caused a major issue with the sharing of data, because they couldn't get that engine dialed in until the first few races. Once they've had that engine dialed in, everything is different. Now they can't fully share the data across because the engine specs are slightly different, chassis specs are slightly different, and this is why you'll see Zarco runs a different frame from everyone else, because they are looking at their frame for next year. So they are developing. So realistically, with Marini's bike is miles behind where the Pramac boys bikes would be. He's last to get the updates, and that famous saying of shit rolls downhill. He will get it when they have found something better in the factory team. What the factory team were using would roll down to Pramac, and what Pramac were using will roll over to Marini. So I do think in a way it's a little bit unfair that we classify it as the Ducati Cup. Ducati have put 4 riders and 2 teams on the grid. Yes, they're getting paid for it, but they made the bikes available. They could just put those GP21s in a storeroom somewhere and not have them used. But again, look, they're putting them out there. They're enabling teams to get part of the championship. I'm sure, you know, a GP21, while it is expensive, I don't think it would be as expensive as an Aprilia next year or a Honda or whatever. So I definitely think, you know, it's a bit harsh to be giving it the Ducati Cup. They're enabling riders. It's not Ducati's fault that they've built a good bike that a lot of riders can ride and ride fast. So look, I just think instead of calling it a Ducati Cup, you know, I would turn it and put it on other manufacturers. Why don't you run more bikes? You know, why doesn't KTM, which they do have a satellite team, you know, but there is a shortage of bikes on the grid. You know, anyone else is available. If I am a team, I will be very honest. If I'm a team and I'm buying my bikes, what bike would I buy? And I answered this on a podcast quite recently. You know, if I could get my hands on a Ducati or a Yamaha, and I'm paying the money out of my pocket for the bikes, what am I going to pick? And what would you pick? And I think that's the perfect place that we can end today's video on, is that if you were paying money out of your pocket to run your team, what bike would you choose? And if you were a manufacturer and you had bikes available that were just going to be put in a store, and someone came along to you and said, here's 5 million, can I rent those bikes for the year? Would you take them? Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video.